Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello.
Ew.
Alrighty. Welcome to tonight's live stream. Thank you all so much for joining us. Welcome, Alyssa and Oscar. How are you guys today?
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah, not
Good
too
to be
bad
here.
yourself.
Yeah, good, good, good. Today's been nice. It feels a bit it's strange with 2 short weeks back to back because of Easter, but back into the full swing of it, calling schools, organising events. So good from my end. Alyssa, how's your day been?
Yeah, good. I would not describe this week as strange, though. I'd describe it as good. The two back-to-back short weeks, personally. But yeah, good short weeks.
Yeah, nice. And Oscar, how have your week been? How's Easter? Get it?
Yeah, busy, not too crazy though. Had a decent break before getting back into it. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
It
nice.
goes really like short, I guess, but long at the same time. Like I remember on Friday, I was like, oh, I got so many days off. Like this is great, 4 days off.
That's gone.
And then Sunday, I'm like, oh, it's
yeah.
over.
Yeah. What was your, let's do a quick one, do highlight of Easter for everyone. I will say definitely a
Ooh.
highlight. I'll go first. My highlight was, this is a strange one, but I went to a farm and got into beekeeping suit and had a look at all like different bees and such. It was really fun. But one did get me in the eye and my eye did swell up for a few days. So it was a bit strange, but I did love it.
Uh, yeah,
Oscar, yours,
nice.
highlight of Easter?
Well, the series finale of the Walking Dead spin-off, Once We Live, came
Oh,
out.
I thought you were going to say
Yeah,
Married at First Sight for sure. Just
nah, I'm good. That came out. It was good. So I'm glad it was good. Essentially, no spoilers, but
Yeah,
it's peak.
nice.
worth watching.
Definitely. Well,
Yeah,
if you've watched Walking Dead, otherwise it won't make any sense. But yeah,
nice.
I feel like
And
that was one of the ones I started and didn't finish,
couldn't get
but
through.
maybe that's because it wasn't over yet as well. So,
yeah, that'd be it.
And Alyssa, your highlight.
um, good question. I went to the footy on Friday. That was great. I watched about 10 minutes of football. Um, and then sat with a glass of champagne at the bar the rest of the time. So it was great.
Doing it the right way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not a bit of football was watched.
Awesome. All right. Well, a big thank you to everyone who's joining us tonight. We are joined by a special guest, Oscar, as well. Oscar, so product manager at MK. So really, really exciting to have Oscar on. Thank you so much for being free and willing. Tonight, throughout the live stream, if you have any questions for Alyssa, myself, or mainly Oscar, feel free to pop them in chat, and we'll do our best to get them answered. But with that said, I'll hand over to Alyssa to run the rest of the live stream. Enjoy.
Alrighty, awesome. Alrighty, I guess to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Oscar?
Yeah. Well, I am Oscar. I am a product manager at Mighty Kingdom, with a background in game design. I I went to AIE. I attended, I think it was 2015, 16,
Okay.
back when the Adelaide campus first opened. Um, and then since then, I guess I've had about 7 years actively working in industry as well, across mobile, PC, some console, VR. Yeah, that's my high level.
Yeah, awesome. Were you in one of the first cohorts here then? Were you the first year
The
from when
Yeah,
we
the
were in
very
Adelaide
first.
or?
Yep.
Yeah, wow. So how did you hear about AIE, I guess, if it was brand new to Adelaide at the
Mm.
time?
I can't remember exactly. I think it was probably an ad of some
Yep.
sort, because I was in final year of high school, and um, already got I was already enrolled to do computer science at Adelaide Uni, and then I think I stumbled upon, I think it must have been an ad about enrollments for AIE, and then looked into it, and well, eventually went. Um,
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that would have been it, because hadn't heard of it at all at that point, like out of state either. So that was good timing, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. So sorry, did you go to uni as well then, or you just thought about
No, no, no.
it?
So I was enrolled to do computer science, but before finishing high school, right at the end of the year, then I was aware that AIE was a thing and
Yeah,
went there instead.
yeah. It's funny, we've actually had a few current students and past ones that I've spoken to that have said, "Oh yeah, I did a year at a uni and I was doing computer science, and then I thought there was going to be all this game engine stuff because they advertise a game topic, and they were like, oh, you do like one topic in the third year." So switched to AIE after about a year. So yeah. But I guess so then, if you were looking at computer science, why the switch to game design then?
Yeah, well, I wanted to eventually make games anyway,
Yeah.
so it was an easy decision to change from computer science wanting to make games to something that involves making games and making games, essentially.
Did you toss up doing programming then, or just design?
Mostly design, I think, from the thought that in doing a design course, I would be able to touch a bit of all the topics doing that.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, focusing on just one, it wouldn't expose me as much to the rest, so I wouldn't have as much of a comprehensive like knowledge of being able to actually make a game myself
Yeah.
or have the capacity to, rather than just honing in on something specific at the time.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess when you were looking at doing game design and wanting to get into the industry and whatnot, and I guess starting your course as well, did you have like a studio or a game or something that you looked up to, or even a person that you were like, yep, I just want to work there or be like them or make that game?
Yeah, sort of. So I think probably both RuneScape and Minecraft at the time, uh, kind of before I started, were the two peak things in my life as far as games. So I think those were kind of like, I want to make a game that is very, has like a nice experience, and world that and kind of like live in and go in and have other people experience as well. So I'd say that was probably one of the primary sources, being those things. But as far as studios, I think I had like ideas of studios that would be cool to work at because I like the games and stuff. But I think not really having an understanding yet of what it actually means to work in a studio, and that, you know, like now the thing that I'd value much more is the people who are in the studio rather than what the studio is or the games that they make themselves. Um,
Yeah, 100%. I
that,
mean, that probably goes for a
yeah,
lot of workplaces as well. Hey.
yeah, definitely. So I think it was like less, it was probably like, I don't think I romanticized it that much as far as like, there's like this one studio that I really want to work at. It was more just like, I just want to be involved in this thing that
Yeah.
to make experiences essentially.
I love the fact that you said Minecraft because honestly, so many people when I go to expos and things like that, they come up and they're like, I'm so good at Minecraft. I am going to be able to be a game designer. And I'm like, yes, good on
Yeah.
you. Keep going.
Yeah. Well,
um,
I did. I think on that, I mean, at the time, it was early Minecraft as well, so it was just like the one guy, and later like a very small group of people doing it. So I think that's a particular aspect that probably did like motivate me and inspire me of like it can be a small amount of people doing it, not just big studios as well.
yeah, for sure. Um, and I guess, could you touch on, I guess, as you were going through AIE, and maybe more towards the final end of your studies, did you have a goal job in mind that you were wanting to go to? Is there some specific skill that I guess you were like, well, I'm really good at that and I want to focus on that area, or it was just, I just want to be out in industry?
It was probably a mix of I want to be able to make games myself, and I want to be able to do that as my main thing. But at the same time, it would be really good to be able to go into the industry, get knowledge, experience in different ways, um, and then be able to use that to build on and eventually make games myself more and make better games and gain like the knowledge and resources that I need to do that. That
Yeah, for sure.
was probably my main thing, I'd say. Like wanting to be in the industry, go somewhere, work on things, but also make my own things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, can you tell us a little bit about your experience at AIE, your projects, teachers, how it was
Yeah.
for the 2 years that you were here?
Well, it's probably a lot different to what it is today,
Yeah,
mostly just because of that thing of like, all right, first year of a brand new campus, new stuff. It was hectic in a good way,
yeah,
in that the students were learning what to do, but I think in a lot of ways the teachers were also learning what to do,
yeah,
um, and which was good. It was a good experience having that. So it's probably not too comparable today. But as far as the teachers and students, like teachers were great. I had I think like Carl, who I think is the head of design now.
yeah. He's
He
still
he
around the
was
place.
yeah he was my like teacher in the first year, and it was really good. Just having people who have that experience in the industry be able to have you know real stories, real anecdotes to be able to you know pass down and correlate that to like actual practices is really valuable. And I think that's where I probably got some of the best learnings from the teachers.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, no,
Um,
students are great
if
too.
you,
There you go.
I was going to ask actually, if you were in the first cohort, did you have Marcus Wheatley with you as well?
I did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, he was
Yeah,
in my
okay,
class.
awesome. Yeah, so he's one of our trainers here as well now.
Yeah,
So he
yeah.
teaches one of our certificate courses. So
Nice.
yeah, try and hold on to a few of them occasionally. um, can you talk about, I guess, your major project? Obviously, I know it was a while ago, and you've probably blocked it out of your mind, but tell us about how you came up with the concepts, what your team was like, and I guess how you stayed on track as well, because our second year students and even our first year students this year, soon they will be going through that exact same process. And obviously, as you know, it's a little bit of a hectic time. There's a lot going on, and you cram in the best work that you can into quite a small amount of time.
Yeah. Um, it was good. So the approach that we kind of took was that we actually made a game in a game jam during first year. Um, and what we did is we kind of took the learnings and knowledge from that game jam that we did and applied that to the major project for the first year so that we were building from I guess, like an informed, knowledge base of like, what is this game? What works well about it? How can we improve it and make it better and flesh it out into a fuller game experience? That was a game called Elemental. Um, and what we did from there, and that went well, that was good. Like we definitely overscoped. I think that's just something that
Classic.
happens. And yeah, you can try your best, but I think it's something that largely comes with experience. But then what we did going to second year is we did kind of the same thing where it was, a completely different game, but we built on the learnings that we had from a lot of the mechanics that we made and translated that into a new game for second year, which was different, but it wasn't something that was completely new. It was so there was a good mix of learning new things and exploring new mechanics and systems and designs, but at the same time building it on a foundation that we already had a pretty good knowledge of, which helped us actually have a game that we could play at the end of it that we were happy with, essentially, and wasn't too stressful. Still stressful, but not too stressful.
Do
But
you
one
look at these
advantage,
images now and go, ooh, or do you go, no, that was a good effort?
I mean, I think it's still good. I think it's still good. Pretty happy. I
Yeah,
mean,
nice.
I think it would be. I don't know of probably anyone or any project that someone might look back on and think there isn't anything that definitely could be improved. And there's definitely things, 100%. But I think at the time, knowing what we knew and the knowledge that we did of stuff, feel pretty happy with it. So
Yeah.
no changes. I think I would have made knowing what I knew at the time. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's very fair. Any
Yeah.
advice for someone that's thinking about what they're going to do for their first or their second year project
Yeah,
currently?
yeah. Keep it contained. Keep it simple. Try not to overscope. I know also that when it's like don't want to make it simple, I'm going to make a Dark Souls clone, and that's natural because you want to do that. And I'd say maybe just pick one mechanic that you really like from something that you want to do and explore that as the game instead of trying to
Yep.
make a lot of things and try to not make it overly systems focused, focus on things that you can actually prototype quickly and iterate on quickly rather than needing all the pieces to come together in order for it to be playable. I think that would be
Yeah, for
my
sure.
number one advice.
Absolutely. And to be fair, we have heard very similar advice from other people as well. So I think everyone kind of comes into that same problem. Can you explain what's going on this screen here next to us? Because
Oh
I love
yeah,
it.
that one's it's a myself and another student when we were at AIE together, we got invited to go to a game jam in Cologne for Gamescom back in, I think it was 2016. And this is just a game that we made there with some other people. It's called Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. And essentially, it's a four-player party game where everyone's a sheep, but one person's actually a wolf disguised as a sheep, and no one knows who it is. You have to try to act like a sheep, blend in. You can howl to disrupt the other sheep and try to attack a sheep that you think is a player. And if you manage to get that player, you score points. If you don't get them and get a normal sheep, you lose points. Um,
Ah, that's why they've got zips on them. I see. That's cute.
yeah,
Is that a zip? Yeah. Get the
yeah.
outfit off. Very cute. I love that. So sorry, how long did you spend on that game?
Oh, that was just a weekend.
Just a weekend, so
Just
48
it
hour
was.
kind of game jam
I
classic.
think it was. Yeah, yeah,
Super impressive still. All right, so moving on a little bit and talking more about your current work that you do. So you now work at Mighty Kingdom. Can you please explain, I guess, a little bit about them and what they do?
yeah, yeah. So Mighty Kingdom is a game development studio founded in 2010, maybe technically 2009. I can't remember, something like that. And we make games, mobile, we make console, PC, VR, Workfire, original IP stuff. We've worked with uh, brands and companies and make games for like Sony, Barbie, Apple, Google, on Conan, Star Trek. Uh, yeah, a bunch of people and a bunch of stuff making super
Yeah.
cool things. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And how did you find out about the job at Mighty Kingdom and how did you go about applying and getting, I guess, your portfolio ready? Could you explain a little bit about what you did and I guess any recommendations for anyone as well that's looking to put a portfolio together and wanting to apply for a job?
Yeah, I think it was probably a friend who worked there at the time said that there was like a QA role opening, and I just went and interviewed for it. Um, and I didn't get it, but instead they offered me a design role. Um, I think I was the first full-time designer at the company at the time. I think there were some people before, but but they might have been contract previously. I can't remember what it was, but regardless, but that was back in 2017, I think. So that's when it was about 20 or so people, and now it's I don't know what the current count is. At one point it was 180 or so. Um, but
Yeah, huge.
what I'd probably very different now. There's sort of more of a process of going through, a few different meetings, meeting people from disciplines that you'd be working with, people from different disciplines that you might be interacting with day to day, and then different people together as well. So there's a bit of a range. But what I'd probably recommend just in general is making sure to focus on portfolio, really. And just, I mean, there's lots of tips there that could be said, but making sure that you sort of demonstrate your actual capabilities and talk to them rather than, just sort of pitches or builds, have videos, talk about, what challenges you had. I know it's like you probably don't want to talk about something that's bad in a portfolio, but, show identifying what could have been better um, is super important, and knowing that, you're understanding what improvements to make next time, what your takeaways are from things, what your learnings are. I think one big thing that I've seen a few times is that the the portfolio should be simple and easy to navigate to actually use. No, they aren't sometimes,
Okay.
which does make it a bit tricky at face value. So that's kind of another thing that I would say to ensure, make it simple, make it easy, actually talk about your capabilities um, and reflections on what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. No, good advice there. Matt, I see you've chimed back in here. How can
Hello.
we help you?
So, that was really good advice actually, for the portfolio stuff, Oscar. Really, really good. And you are right. Simple is nice because simple. I think if you can display something that is a bit complex but in a simple way, I think that speaks to you almost professionally as well. Like you can take something complex and make it palatable for whoever is enjoying it. So that's a
Yeah.
hard skill or a rare skill, but a good one to have. So the reason I jumped in was because we have two questions from our lovely audience. The second one, I think you could talk about for a long time, but I think maybe just the key part to it. But first question, as a product manager, how do you go about task scheduling, especially in pre-production? And the
Mm.
second question is, what's the difference? And I guess that's what I mean by what's the key differences between like a product manager and other people like your programmers and designers and such. So
Mm.
maybe tackle the task scheduling, especially in pre-production question.
Yeah. Um, so probably the highest level thing is, it kind of depends what the project is for. Like most of the time, it will be something that's, work for hire. So we have more so explicit deadlines, milestones, that we need to meet. There'll often be different requirements from a client at different points during those milestones too. So what I'll usually do is work, like assuming we already have sort of like we've already pitched, we already know what the idea is, we've got a decent idea of what we're going to do. Work backwards from what do we need this game to roughly be at the end, and what are the steps that we will need to achieve at each milestone in order to eventually get to that end product, really, knowing that a lot will change along the way, so you can't really make that full plan and for it to be useful either upfront. So it's about trying to figure out that balance of enough detail that it's useful to help the team and everyone else actually plan what they need to do and how much time it's going to take, versus knowing that things will also change and to make sure that things are adaptable. That's very high level. It could go incredibly deep, but I'll try to stop it there.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess
Uh,
the second question then, like your key differences between the producer, product manager, designer.
yeah, yeah. So it can vary a bit by the company, and especially in games and outside of games. But generally, the consistent thing is that the product manager is generally the person who's responsible for the outcome of the game at a high level. So making sure that
That's a lot of
what's
pressure.
being yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so making sure that for who the audience is, who the client is, if that's relevant, making sure that you're taking their needs into consideration, what they want, and making sure that the game aligns with what they want and expect, and that you work with a producer to make sure that we can schedule these things and hit the milestones that the product manager has sort of set out, and that working with like game design and the whole team really, that they have alignment on what the product is, what direction we're heading in, uh, prioritizing any fires relating to the being able to ship the game, deliver builds, whatever we need there as well. That'd probably be the biggest point of difference, but also like the most common thing at the same time. But no matter what the product role is having ownership over the thing and being responsible that it is what it needs to be for stakeholders, essentially. And that includes players and customers too.
Yeah, awesome. And that ties in, I guess, we've had a few more questions pop up in chat. Chat
Ooh,
are
love
really
this.
going crazy with this one. What the next question they had, and I think you've answered a lot of this, Oscar, but feel free to add to it. But then someone asked like the key difference between the three, which is a producer, a project manager, and a product manager. So I think you just really clearly then laid out what a product manager then kind of does. A project manager, do you have those, a project manager and a product manager at MK, two different positions, or?
No, we don't have project managers at MK.
Yeah.
I think that's another case where it can be like the definition of those can be slightly different depending on the field and the makeup of the company, but we don't have product managers. Sorry, I'm a product manager. We don't have project managers.
Project managers.
It's essentially what a project manager would be is shared between product manager and production as a producer in actually scheduling these things with people and
Yeah.
to the budget and when and what.
Yeah. Awesome. And then we had two more questions, which we already answered one. So, Julio on chat, you asked what kind of tips would you give for building a portfolio? We did talk about portfolios previously, so after this, actually, you can go back and watch the start of it, and there's some really good tips from Oscar. The next question that came from Rue, shout out Rue, one of our students here at the Adelaide campus. As someone who, great egg, as someone who is about to embark on major production and is still coming up with ideas, what are some niche genres or niches genres that are unrepresented in the market? In your opinion?
Yeah.
Oh, love this.
and any general advice for major production, which he asked as well. So
yeah, that's
Give Rue
a
your
hard one.
best ideas. What have you been holding back?
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I think that feels like yeah, I don't know. I don't have advice on what genres feel like the best to break into because I think really you can have different genres, different markets that you're targeting, but it's always going to be hard. And I think that if you're trying to do something in a genre that's quite niche, you'll equally also have an audience that's more likely to be more critical of what you're doing. So if you're doing it just for the genre or just for the market, and you're not necessarily like super skilled in doing it or don't execute on it super well, you might end up in a not necessarily as good a position as if you did something that was more to your strengths. So I don't have any easy winning tips on niche genres there, but um, yeah. But for what was the other question again? Sorry.
The
Or
other,
general. Sorry, yeah,
yeah, general advice for major production.
that's it. Um, Other general advice. I think this probably ties into more general advice too, but I would say make a real effort to try to learn everything that you can about the other disciplines that are around you, what they do, uh, how they do it, their processes. Not necessarily like to apply it, but it would be really important in the sense of like you can understand what challenges they're having. You can talk to them and understand the language that they're using. Um, so you can inherently build sort of like a better ability to bridge between people, have better communication. You can, like if we're talking about like we want to have a mechanic that has like mesh deformation, you'd know then like, have to defer that to tech art, but then also you might know, that's going to add potentially to like our optimization requirements later. So it kind of does like add different linkages between what might what someone might be doing versus the knock-on effect that that might also have to something else too. So I think just being able to absorb as much of that as possible, like in AA and outside, would be super important for, I mean, major production, but just in general. But especially major production because it's like such a small group of people, you have a good opportunity to ask these questions of like, what are the specific challenges you're having to you as well, and to be able
Yeah,
to understand that better.
yeah,
Yeah, that's super
awesome.
good advice.
Cool. Thanks for the
Perfect.
questions, chat, and I might hand over back to Alyssa from hijacking her
No,
live
that's
stream.
fine. Love that. No, that was really good advice in regards to getting to know everyone's role as well. I think AA is such a collaborative place as well that, if you're ever going to do it, like your time is while you're here, really, when people actually have time to teach you and talk about what the issues are as well, rather than maybe in a workplace, it's probably not as easy because you're all on time crunches as well. So, yeah, anyway. I guess when we were talking about portfolios, you gave some really good advice. But what did you think about putting in your portfolio to go for your job at Mighty Kingdom?
Yeah, I can't really remember what it was like at the time. I think it was like Adobe Portfolio Builder or whatever it was called back then or now. It was mostly talking though. I think pretty similar to as I was mentioning before, making sure that it's easy to see what I was showing off. So having some videos, having a build available, but probably no one would ever play them, um, just because of time, really.
Yep.
Making sure that I talked about what my actual contributions were, and how that was, um, actually doing the project and the learning outcomes I had from it. And yeah, just more on that. I think it probably wasn't great, but it was simple and to the point. I think would have been
Yeah.
the main thing.
And I guess what you were touching on before as well, I guess pointing out your flaws is not the worst thing sometimes, because then you can actually work on that and they know exactly what you need to work on too.
Exactly.
Um, can you tell us a bit about your day-to-day job, if you're allowed to talk about that as well?
Yeah,
What does it look like
I'm
for
gonna talk
you?
to it. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to it pretty high level. Um, it will be largely, it changes a lot each day because it's typically a lot of different fires in different places. But generally it will involve, we've got stand-ups in the morning. Sometimes there might be a meeting with the client before or after. Um, it will be looking over, our task tracking. How is everything going? Do we have any particular problems that need addressing as far as like, we might be stuck on something here. This, where we realize that something's going to take longer than we expect. So, yeah, we might need an alternate solution to this, and then kind of renegading, people up to figure out what we need to do. Different meetings popping up during the day. I don't know. It's a bit of a hard one to answer because it is generally quite different day to day. But um, meetings and talking to people and problem solving and um, not so much anymore for myself, but sometimes like design stuff too. And then it might also then go into like looking at some other projects as far as like, what are we doing for um, different new business stuff and whatever else you might have. So without being able to go into much detail, I think that's kind of it
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. No, fair enough. It sounds, I guess I love doing something different every day. That is kind of, I wouldn't want to sit there and do the same thing every day. So I think that's awesome that you obviously have that capability to do that as well. If you had a piece of advice to give to someone that's hoping to get into the games industry or hoping to get into a similar career pathway as what you've done, a piece of advice for them.
Probably have like I really have two particular things. The first one I kind of already touched on before, I'd say, with just absorbing as much as possible from other disciplines to be able to talk to that and build your vocabulary and understand the challenges and problems. That's one that's been, extremely useful for me. Um, and even just like, because then that's like, okay, I know what's actually happening with the project at different points and different levels too. Even if I can't actually do anything, that's useful information to have to be able to inform other things. The other thing though is that I've found has been the most helpful, and I know it's something that can be like really hard as well, depending on who you are, is being able to learn to think objectively. Um, so being able to take your opinions and yourself out of not just decisions, but just thought processes on what you might want to do. Knowing and also knowing when to do that and when to not do that is also just as important. Um, that in particular is useful from thinking through the perspective of players and not yourself. Because even if you are making a game where you think you're the ideal player for this game, be able to think through the lens of people who also might not be, or even people who still are, but don't have the knowledge that you do about this game in the way that you approach it is extremely useful. So like you already know pretty much everything about the game. Try as much as possible to detach yourself from that and then think through the lens of someone who knows nothing and then come into it for the first time and then learn to ask yourself all these questions about, you know, what do I do? What button do I press to start the game? Do I know, what the button is to move? Maybe the game actually never tells you, but you don't really think about it because you already know it and it's just sort of innate. Um, that yeah, anyway, that through the perspective of the player, but also just in general as well, can be helpful, especially when if you get to a point of talking to clients or publishers or whoever it might be able to think through, like if we're like delivering something to them, being able to think through the lens of when we give this to them, what are they going to see? What are they going to experience from getting this? Is it going to make sense to them if they just like play this build without knowing what we know? So then you can make sure to give any context or maybe the decisions you make and what you do want to show are actually slightly different to what you do just because you're thinking through the lens of what are they going to experience not being in my brain at all.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I think play
yeah,
testing as well, that comes into a big part of that as well, doesn't it?
definitely.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, we're almost out of time, but I'd love to go through some of the stuff that you've worked on at MK as well. So, Matt, if you could bring up a few things, and maybe Oscar, if you could talk us through, I guess, what these ones were like, what your favorite ones were, some challenges, or maybe your favorite parts as well.
Yeah, sure. This one's wildlife. So bubble shooter with a narrative layer on top of it. This was the first game I was ended up being PM on, about halfway through, I think. Excuse me. Yeah, this was a good one. Built lots of new tech. Probably a fun takeaway was that there was a particular bug at a point that we had in this game where every time you started a new level, it accidentally gave you like 3 of every single boost in the game and accidentally destroyed our economy for a little bit there before we could identify it and roll it back. So
Nice.
that was a fun one. That's my key memory with this game, apart from
Brilliant.
all the good stuff.
Love that. All right,
Um,
Matt, if you can bring up another one, I guess.
yeah, this was
Shopkins.
yeah. So we had a portfolio of Shopkins games. They're not available on the store anymore. But this was the precursor to wildlife. So as I said, like same as when doing major production, we built a game and then we utilized the learnings from that game to build another game. We did the same kind of thing. So we built a bubble shooter and then using the learnings of building a bubble shooter, we built a bubble shooter with a narrative layer on top of it, like akin to Gardenscapes or Homescapes. So continually just making games that you're familiar with, but with a twist, essentially, I guess,
I'm guessing you
was the
didn't do the
crux
same
of that.
glitch again twice, hey?
No. Well, that one was
Oh,
before, so that was
yeah,
a new
okay,
learning.
right. Um, awesome. All right. They look super good. I love the art style as well. Looks amazing. All
Yeah,
right.
runner
Well, I guess we'll be. Yeah, you go. Sorry.
I was going to say, that Reese Bartholomew, I think, is the deputy head at Adelaide
Yeah.
at the moment. Did an insane amount of work on Shopkins World as well, in particular, and I know he did a great job on that too.
Shout out to Reese.
That was
Bless
it.
him. We
That
love
was
him.
it. Yeah, I just saw it and then it reminded me.
um, is there anything that you can talk about that we might see your name in the credits coming up soon? Or is it all hush hush?
No.
No. Okay, fair
No.
enough.
Yeah. Can't really say
No,
anything.
that is fair enough. Well, we'll just have to
Yeah.
keep an eye out then. That pretty much wraps up. We've gone a little bit over time, so sorry to keep you, Oscar. I know you've got a very
Oh,
busy
no, no.
schedule, so we do really
I'm
appreciate you coming on as
happy
well.
to.
Matt, over to you.
Hello. All right. So before we cut off, I'll sneak in one last final question from Rue. So he said that, and it's a good question. I was like, oh, yeah, I don't know. But another question, if we have time, I often find stand-ups a bit boring and awkward. Do you have any advice to make them more interesting and engaging first thing in the morning?
Well, I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's what works best for you and your team, really. If they're kind of like boring, it's like, okay, what are you actually getting out of this? Why are you doing this? Um, and then figure out like what's the value you're getting out of it and focus on that. It's like stand-ups are generally meant to be that, you are able to highlight any potential issues you have currently for the day, kind of like, high level, what's going on, so that everyone can be a bit across it. But if what you're doing or the format you're doing it in, or is not useful or supportive to you and the team, probably just like look at, okay, what is the information that we actually want to get out of stand-ups, and just focus on that. Because if it's kind of feeling boring, it probably isn't useful information, or at least like information that couldn't be distilled down or into a different format, something along those lines. I don't know. It's kind of specific to, I guess, what you're doing, but end of the day, probably change it if it's not working for you and your team.
Yeah, keep trialing and find something that works.
Yeah. Find what's
No one
actually
likes a
useful.
meeting for the sake of a meeting, do they?
Yeah.
Could have been an email situation.
Cool. No, awesome. Thank you so much for the questions, Rue, and for the rest of the audience members, and thank you so much for Oscar for answering them really well and in great detail. So we have hit the end of, or towards the end of the live stream. So what I'll do is allow me to quickly bring up the AIE website. So for anyone listening out there who is interested in learning more about becoming a product manager, game designer, game programmer, artist, even VFX and filmmaking, the AIE website, which hopefully a lot of people have kind of been to, they navigated to this live stream through. There's a lot of information available to you. Up the top here, this goes through our courses. We have a huge range of courses, all the way from beginner courses from ages 12, all the way through to training you ready for the industry, like Oscar. So if you are wanting to know more about the courses, head to the website. If you want to get more information about the courses, don't be afraid to reach out to campuses as well. People like Alyssa and myself are here, and we're more than happy to talk you through, guide you. There's some awesome government funding around a lot of courses these days, as the industry is growing, and so the government has really backed Australia becoming bigger and healthier in terms of the games industry and film industry. So reach out to us and we can let you know about that. Showcase, we do have in the Showcase tab our wonderful events that we run. So if you go to this, we do have Industry Experience Day, which is one of our major internal events. This one's coming up very, 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 very shortly, so mid-April. This one here, we're looking for essentially year 11s and 12s to come onto campus, get hands-on with some of the software, give it a bit of a try. It's from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. and you'll go through a workshop of the streams you can see listed here. So a bit of 3D art, bit of programming, and a bit of game design as well. If you are into visual effects and filmmaking, visual effects through film as well, this working in art and 3D is applicable to you. So hit register here and fill in the details. It's free to attend. There's also lunch provided on the day, so even if you just want a little bit of lunch, come along. We've got other live streams as well coming up as well, so we'll post those. Initiatives, student information, information once again on the interview and portfolio. Oscar gave some really good advice about portfolios earlier, so if you did miss that, go back and watch it. But there's of course all our campuses you can get in contact with here and ask a question if you have any that aren't answered through the website, or there's the big apply now button as well, which is nice and easy to navigate to. So plenty of resources on the website. Once again though, get in touch with us. Thank you so much tonight for Alyssa being a wonderful host as always, and thank you so much for Oscar being a wonderful guest and giving up your time to help let us know a little bit more about what a product manager does, your journey, as well as MK and the exciting horizon for you and them as well. So a big thank you. I think I might just ask that any final last little tips, hints for any audience members. We'll start with Oscar.
No, sorry. I went blank there.
He's given all his good advice up.
I mean, I could go. I ramble. I could go on forever. So I'm sorry for going over. But, yeah, no, I'm happy to. It was good. Thank you for having me.
That's all right.
Is
Alyssa.
there what can you plug of yours, Oscar? Where can we find you? What can we see that you've worked on? What plugs would you like to do? Plug your stuff.
I don't know.
Nope.
I like have a Twitter, but I haven't actually posted anything in like a year and a half. So probably
Yeah,
don't do
nice.
that.
Do you
Nah,
do you
not
have a
really.
LinkedIn?
Not
Do you
really.
have a LinkedIn?
I do have a LinkedIn, so feel free to jump on that. Just my name.
Yeah.
That's below
Sure,
right
some of
there.
our upcoming
Yeah.
students would love to do
I'm.
that.
I think there's like 2 or 3 people in the world who have that last name, so it should be
There
easy
you
to
go.
find.
Nice.
Lovely.
Cool. And yeah, Alyssa, any final takeaways?
Ooh. No, I think we're good. I think Oscar,
Oh,
honestly,
good.
some really good advice there. Like I think you summed it all up awesomely. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think some really good tips for regarding the portfolio, like you said, Matt. So if anyone missed out on that, be sure to just go back and watch that because that's such a big important part of this industry, having that portfolio ready.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone. That wraps it up for us. Having trouble with words tonight. But thank you so much for joining, and hopefully we'll see you at an event soon or on the next live stream. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.